Hi y'all, welcome to my shop. I've got a great tip for you today for a tool storage bucket. I find this bucket solution extremely helpful. I've got two lathes, so when I teach classes I was finding out I was having a hard time keeping a supply of tools nearby with something to easily store them. So I made a second tool bucket. I had one before, and this is a great storage unit to be able to show you. Be able to move around your shop or to transport, stick in your back of your car or truck or SUV to carry it for a workshop or a class, what have you. But this works great. It's one that's especially helpful if you're traveling or going to workshops or something of that nature. And it's basically just a 5-gallon bucket, and it's got a donut with a number of holes drilled. It's got a little foam at the bottom to protect the points from chewing up the bucket. Get one with a handle. You can use 3/4 inch plywood. Anything smaller than that's probably too small, but I glued up 2 1/2 inch pieces, actually just a hair less than 1/2 inch, thinking that a 1 inch would provide a little more stability. My donut is exactly 11 inches. I've got just a very slight tilt on the bandsaw, so I will have just a very slight radius for the bucket. The size of this thing is exactly 11 inches across. I use a circle cutting jig I made a long time ago. I won't get any details how to make it. Mine's pretty crude, but it's GE. It's good enough to get the job done for me for the very few times that I use it for something like this. But like I say, you want to tilt your table just the slightest amount. I can't tell you how much, but I'm guessing it's 3 degrees, similar to a Morse taper. My bucket is 14 inches tall. At the very top of the bucket, it's 11 1/4 inches diameter. The bottom of the bucket is 10 1/4 inches in diameter. So you've got 1 inch spread between the top and the bottom, and you can do a little math to figure out how big your donut ought to be. But my donut needed to be exactly 11 inches, and that seemed to work fairly well. Let me show you. I drew this out with a compass. You don't have to have a circle making jig. I suppose if you draw it with a compass, you could probably cut it fairly close with a bandsaw, maybe smooth the rough edges on a belt sander. Draw an extra line 1.5 inches in from the outside. That's what you're going to drill your holes on. I find 1.5 inches works for me with the size handles and the size holes. Your mileage may vary. This might be considered overkill, but I put a little handle on mine. I just find it a little easier to slip it in and inside, and if I need to take it out, I can pull it out. And I already had knobs turned from knob making article and a demonstration I did, so I already had a hole drilled that was pretty close to the appropriate size. Go ahead and put that knob on it. And the knob does gussy it up just a little bit. Nothing wrong with having it look reasonably nice. So, okay, got a starter hole here. I've already got a hole in the knob because I fastened this with a screw chuck. If you're interested in learning how to turn a knob, I've got a video for that. I'm always amazed at wood turners that'll make a shop cabinet and go out and buy knobs, but I guess it's all in what you're interested in doing. I kind of like spindle work, and turning knobs is kind of fun. And there we go. Now all I got to do is put it on the drill press. I'm going to mark a series of holes. Now, some time back I made a circle cutting template with all the different size Forstner bits that I have, and I find that handy from time to time trying to match something up. So in order to match the appropriate size hole, probably the largest tool handle I would use would be this Carter & Sons. I find a 1 3/8 inch seems to balance fairly well. I have a number of smaller, more spindle size, and I find 1 1/8 tends to be a good fit for that. 1 1/4 actually is not bad, but 1 3/8, and then I've got a problem. So you want to have a variety. So I'm going to go with 1 1/8 and 1 3/8 and do several of each. I like to put a piece of round foam at the bottom. If you don't have round foam, don't worry about it. You can use dry chips. And I'm using my 11-inch donut chuck to mark this thing. Then I'm going to cut it back about 1/2 inch so it'll squeeze in the bottom. For you extreme analyticals, feel free to leave in the comments. Do you think it's better waffle up, waffle down? I've got waffle up because I think it's less likely to have the points slip and bump into each other. On the other hand, waffle down might make it easier to shake the chips out. Whatever. I mentioned the larger holes. Let me mention some smaller holes. I use a few 3/4 inch holes for Morse tapers, drive center, something like that. In addition, I use a 1/2 inch for just a couple of holes. That tends to hold little bitty tools, although not as well as something a little smaller. But it will hold a 3/8 inch bowl gouge in here. I've got a couple of probably these are not 1/4 inch. They're probably just a bit, well, I got different sizes. I don't know what that hole will even fit anything. These might be, oh, they might be 5/16 of an inch. So I got 5/16. So it'll accommodate my little 1/4 inch tools. I've got some 1/2 inch that'll do some larger tools like 3/8. Then I've got about 3/4 for my various Morse tapers. Now over here, I cut a slot in the side, and then I just glued in a little piece of wood here for my narrow parting tool. I cut a slot on the bandsaw wide enough to accommodate my thin parting tool, and I cut a couple of strips to separate the two different tools that I have. When the glue dries, I use a flush cut saw to cut it off on the top and bottom. This is the same technique I use on my larger tool holder storage unit. Okay, my donut is finished, drilled, everything ready to go. Slip it right in, press it down until it's a nice snug fit, and 1 inch probably doesn't need anything else, but I'm going to go ahead and put a few screws. Just a warning, I'm using 1 inch screws, 3/4 will probably be plenty. Just make sure you don't put it where there's going to be a hole so it interferes where the tool comes out. Mark some of these. Just come in there and drill a little ways. Come back with a screw. And do that a couple more times. Once every 3 or 4 years I shake the chips out of the bottom. Just kidding. I enjoy giving classes in my shop, so if anybody's interested and you're in the general Atlanta area, reach out and contact me. Information's on my website.